Let's launch a probe into it.
Hello, and welcome to Class L Probe, Janeways and Measures. Why I've called it that will become clear as we go on. We are your hosts, Davan and Dave, plain simple Tailors.
Indeed. Your Locutors of Trek.
And with us, our third wheel, but in a good way, because were we a tricycle and we didn't have Adam Woodward, we would
starting off hot.
We would be in big trouble.
I love it. Thank you.
Adam Woodward.
I'm happy to be the third wheel with you guys anytime.
Yeah. I meant that in a good way, but when it came out, I was like, oh, wait. But anyway.
Honestly, speaking of which, some of my favorite vehicles, you know those little tiny European things that have like the one wheel in the front, the two in the back? Oh, man. They're great.
Well,
two-seater thing.
Shall we launch a probe then? I thought we'd start with yours, Adam, because then we're going to get into the Janeways of things.
Really?
Yeah. So let's go for it. Let's launch a probe. Nella Daren is the best love interest we've seen for Jean-Luc Picard. Adam, why did you pick this one?
All right. So I just happened to come upon this episode a few weeks ago.
I watched it today.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good episode.
It is a good episode.
So, all right. So, in order to talk about why Nella Daren is the best love interest, you have to talk about why the others sort of aren't. And I think it just, for me, it comes down to is, albeit short, and I think that's the only thing that I think is probably negative around it, but this man, Picard, he lost his discipline, I think, with Nella Daren on board. And it was refreshing to see, honestly, for me anyway. I liked this Picard. I liked the beginning of this episode. If you remember, she's the stellar cartography wizard and working.
Is she stellar cartography? Oh, yeah, it is something like that. Yeah, she just detected that they can now detect the formation of a universe 2 million years, or a solar system 2 million years.
So she's working late at night, D shift or A, whatever. I don't know how many shifts they're working a day. C shift, I guess. And they, and he can't get a cup of tea. He can't do anything because all the resources are going towards the computer are going towards her project. So finally, he's fed up.
Even dark in there. He walks in there and you can't even see her or anything.
That's right.
You can't even run the lights.
But the best part of this is that she goes, for Christ's sake, who shut the door? You're letting all the light in. And he, at that point, well, I'm the captain, and then she becomes reserved again. But that's the introduction. And then again, she gets, well, no wonder you can't sleep. You're drinking that tea. And he gives him her own sample, which he hates. So, they've come off in not a bad start, but certainly not a what you think they end up as partners or lovers. And then they
not exactly a meet cute, right?
Yeah. Well, but before we go any further, I'm going to count down from 3. And all at the same time, after 1, go 3, 2, 1, then we're going to say it. Yes, yay or nay, is Nella Daren the best love interest we've seen for Picard? Before our discussion, our initial... So, ready? Yay or nay?
Initial survey.
Yeah. All right. 3, 2, 1.
Nay.
Nay.
Ooh, 2 nays and a yay. See, this is interesting. Now, we're going to count down one more time. And after 1, we're going to say who we think that is. We're going to say who we think that is. All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Laris.
What? I didn't hear that. I was supposed to name. I Crusher.
Laris.
Oh wow, 3 different answers. Yeah.
What was yours, Dave?
Crusher.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, we're gonna have a discussion
plays out
here,
the longest, fellas. And yeah.
Well,
right.
Adam, you go first. You make your case for Daren then. And
Okay, so here for me, here it is, and somewhere I'm missing between that first meeting and the chance encounter when they're playing instruments together in some nacelle, I guess, somewhere. But I think that he has found a soulmate as far as somebody that loves music as much as him, loves philosophy as much as him, and also really puts his guard down. I think that he tries to fake it with the crew around and things like that, but he never does a good job of that, really. But I hate to take the other side of it, but Dave, when you talk about Crusher being one, Crusher for me, he just got used to her, and it became a convenience factor. He's on board with her all the time, somebody he can go to. It's also weird because his best friend was his wife, or was her husband, pardon me. And it didn't, I never really felt the connection they had. I think they did a really good job in writing that connection between the two of Picard and Daren. And then the other point of this is that, like without going too far into it, but, if you remember the episode went on, they went to some
recital,
and it was on distress. They had to save some base. And if you recall, they had to send people down to deflect, like set up deflectors of this, to avoid a firestorm that was coming towards the base. And she was leading that team. And during that incident, several of the crew members died. He had no idea who, and he was going mental. And this was the first time you ever saw him lose that lose that discipline for his crew, who he sends people to death all the time. Let's face it. In this case, he actually ended the relationship and sent her away off the ship because he just couldn't manage it.
Well,
now, meanwhile, he's got Crusher on board all the time, who was in danger's way.
Well, Dave, why don't you do a rebuttal on his take on Crusher and your take on his relationship with Daren? Because I have to kind of make comparisons to both of your picks to explain mine.
Sure. I mean, I think, mine is sort of the more kind of trad pick in some ways, in that, and I kind of referenced it right off the bat, the longevity of and the sort of breadth of what we see in that relationship developing as they go from extremely uncomfortable with each other, and then whatever that first season episode there's this undertone they set very early on, right? That there's clearly, like, they're attracted to each other, but they're really unsure what the hell to do about that, and Picard is certainly not in a space where he wants to explore this, and they sort of flirt with it the whole series. But thinking about the episode, I think in some ways, I'm taken by your argument in the sense that Nella Daren's probably the best romance Picard ever gets in that respect. In terms of, as you say, somebody who's sort of like medium on a whole number of levels, and who is sort of into it as well, right? And that's always the question with Beverly Crusher, in some respects. So I think I like the complexities of how they develop the Crusher-Picard relationship, but I absolutely see your points.
They also had 7 years to do that too, and
yeah,
and they took it further. I mean, let's face it, they ended up married at some point. We don't know how. And in both cases, both married in both different. The other.
All good things. Yeah,
all good things, right? Somehow they ended up in a marriage there.
Lovely woman.
Yeah. Or as Picard would say, handsome woman.
Handsome woman, yes. She's a handsome woman, isn't she?
But so divorce in that situation, divorce in the other situation. So again, they didn't really make it in either timeline. So
here's where I would disagree with both of you guys and why I think I've chosen the right one. I think we all agree it's not Bosch.
No, Bosch is a passionate weekend away.
Right?
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
You go to Ryza and meet her in the Oregon. You got it all going on. That's fine.
Right. And
think
the trouble
Lara-
is, the whole point is that what stays on Ryza or happens on Ryza is supposed to stay on Ryza, right?
Yeah.
And Vosh doesn't end up staying on Ryza.
I think there are huge complications and issues with his relationship with both of your picks. And I think the good things about those relationships are embodied better in his relationship with Laris. So the reason I don't think it's Daren is I did just watch that episode, but she's kind of like Vosh in a way where she's not good for him. Like she's not his best love interest. If even having her around, he can't do his job. And it's not like, and it seemed to be a huge problem for him. It's he sent her off the ship, so can't they date then? But no, he's just like, no, I can't deal with. So he's basically shown that he can't date Starfleet officers.
No, but
At
wait,
least not
he
comfortably.
He tries though. He does try. He said, we could meet for leaves and whatnot, and you just knew it was not going to happen.
But yeah, all right, he did give it a bit of a go, but I just think it didn't bring it. It brought it. It was a very romance. I agree with you, Dave. It's his biggest romance where they just had this musical connection, and it was very all very romantic. But I don't think it went much deeper than that. I think she was just. It's like dating yourself. Would you want to date yourself? And some people like kind of gravitate to that, or it happens the odd time. She was just another version of him, like very singular, focused on work. Like she shut down the whole ship without telling anybody. Like that's very singular, focused on your job, like he is. So I feel like it feels like it works because they're the same. So it feels like it should work, but I don't think I don't think it does for that very reason. And with Crusher, I just think there's as much bad, if not more bad, than there is good. Not just their complicated history with like the Jack Crusher, but actually their complicated history with both Jack Crushers. So like those two complicated histories are enough.
I just, for me again, like somebody that, like I took away from that episode that she got him. Well, Daren got Picard. She understands him. Mm-hmm. She indulges him. Certainly, like nobody talks about his music except her the whole time. It actually encourages him to play more. And
But I guess I didn't make the case for Laris. But Laris, like what Picard needs is somebody who's not like exactly like him, like Daren is, but can speak to him on all those levels. Like she's different enough from him being Tal Shiar that like it's not boring to him, or it's not a conflict with him. But she can still speak his lingo, and even more so sometimes, like because she was Tal Shiar, like she knows some kind of subversive shit that he doesn't know. But also like she clearly loves him and he loves her, but she also like he needs somebody. He's the adventurer. He doesn't need another adventurer, like another Vosh or another even Daren. Like he needs somebody who will actually just look after the great fields while he's off doing his adventure and not begrudge him for it. Like she's done that. She's done the spy thing. She likes just hanging out on a great field.
Like, so do you think though, I'm not going to say that's what's wrong, Davan. What I would say is that it's a different time in his life with her.
It is.
And
I think it's a time where he was more ready for love, though. Like that's what he's shown with Daren, and definitely with Crusher, where it's just like, how many on again, off agains do they need?
Yeah, and the other part about that is like, at the beginning of Picard, I didn't get that she was his love interest at all. I thought that he was or she was his like house manager, or
that came later because her husband was killed. Like
that's right.
He was the other Vulcan, and then he's got to reset his camera. That's happened before today already. He'll be back. There he is. Well, he'll figure it out. We can still hear him.
Okay,
I'm sure.
I don't know. I liked it, but I did like that relationship. I just didn't think we got enough of it to understand what it was all about.
Well, we got more than we did with Daren.
Well,
we got seasons instead of minutes.
Here's what occurs to me in what we're saying here. I think, you made some interesting points. The thing that I'm not sure about is that it's about sameness. What I see fundamentally is that what freaks out Picard is that there's a fundamental like irreducible inequity in the relationship, right? Like there's an imbalance of power.
Well, she's on.
Because
Yeah.
like he can send her to her death. She can't send him to that, right? And that fundamentally, I think, sort of once that comes out to him, he's like, I can't have it.
That's why I think he doesn't work with a Starfleet officer. Like,
and I see your
that's
point.
still the
That way. I
case
think
if
it's not
she's
so
on
much
another
about. I mean,
ship,
if the sameness is there, it's about their Starfleet sameness, not in terms of personality.
I meant
It's like
in
the
terms
fact
of personality.
that they're under him in the chain of command.
That too, but I actually meant in terms of personality. Like they're very
sure. I know you did. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
you did. Yeah, for sure.
But well, yes, but see, they can never have that balance. You're right about that. But like even on another ship, that's
No,
still
right?
exists.
And that's
that
yeah.
imbalance. I mean, yeah. So it's really seems very complicated for him to date a Starfleet officer.
It really is, and you see how he's so uncomfortable with it too, right? You know, when he's having breakfast with somebody, or they walk into his. Remember when Vosh sat in his chair? Like, you know, he is very, very uncomfortable with any woman.
But that's probably what kept him from, other than the past with Jack Crusher, but with Beverly all that time. It's just like it's another Starfleet officer under him in
Well, I'm with you. You know, one thing that just comes to mind is that as we've been watching all of this episodic stuff and specifically Strange New Worlds and not Discovery, because that's just a show that goes on forever, but and Picard they had so much time to do more back with Next Gen with 26 episodes, and they, you know, I think they rushed that Daren episode. Honestly, they could have done that over 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
or a season.
She could have been a great, like, sort of Kalar type opposite number for him.
Yeah,
you know, yeah.
Great character, by the way. I don't think she was the best love interest for him, but I love that character.
Yeah, the character is great. Yeah, you're right, David. She could have come back, you know, in different forms or different roles or whatever, and they always had that when she was back in, but they didn't do that.
Well, fellas,
and you know, that's probably as much careers and schedules and wherever she ended up being when they were, if they ever thought about that, as much as anything else, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to come to consensus on this one, though, fellas.
Well, I don't know as we have to, but I think it was well
that's
argued.
Sort of our
sides,
goal,
you know?
when we go into a role, but we don't always have to get there. I agree.
Well, you know, I concede to you. I think that Laris was a really great role partner, but a different time, you know.
True.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
Laris also would have been impossible at that stage in its life.
Yes.
Very lovely Tal Shiar agent.
And you think about it, in the timing, she was like right in it back then at that point, you know. So,
but you know, they're gonna like retire together and everything. Like, I just think that was when he was ready for it. He wasn't ready until Laris, and I think it's a matter of time, right time, and the right person. I think.
Okay.
Laris.
And the right body. You know, whole new setup for him.
And just like, I don't know, like, beautiful, but like it's hard to not stare at Laris. There's something about her face. It's just like it's hard to look away from. She's very, like, what's the word? Like alluring or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's an interesting face, and it's she's fun to look at.
Who doesn't love pointy ears?
Yeah, well, I do.
All right.
All right. Well, let's move on to our next probe then. Why don't we? Number 2, Janeway was right to split Tuvix into Tuvok and Neelix. I watched this one yesterday.
So go for it, Davan. I think this is your
okay.
pick.
Yeah, this was my pick, because this was, well, look, we have the show Class L probes here. This one probably could have been in the first episode, and maybe should have been, because this is, if not the most debated thing in all of Star Trek, at least in the top 3. So we have 3 probes in a Class L probe. This probably should have been in the first episode, but let's get to it now, shall we? It's hard. It's a trip watching this episode, because your opinion will change as you go. Like when Tuvix first materializes, they go, "Who are you?" And he just goes, "I am Tuvok, and I am Neelix." So he's showing that there's this somewhat split, which he then goes on to deny exists later. But
Mm-hmm.
is that because it doesn't exist and he was just confused in that moment? Or is because he has the shrewdness of Neelix and the logic and intelligence of Tuvok, did he just not figure out almost immediately that if this doesn't go a certain way, he's in big trouble? So I don't know. Like I don't know. Tuvix always leaves me feeling unconvinced in his insincerity. Not that that necessarily comes into play on whether you should kill him or not, but it's just I don't know. I've defended Janeway on this many a time, and I'm kind of leaving it to you guys to convince me otherwise, because I feel like, yes, she has this responsibility to this individual that exists, but I guess maybe this is something this is an interesting question too. This is something we talked in the biological sense to Mohammed Noor about, and we've also talked in the metaphysical sense about this.
Hanley,
with Richard Hanley, and he did have some interesting things to say for sure. Maybe you can get into that when I'm done my little spiel here, Dave.
Sure.
So she still has responsibility to those other two lives as well. And like, does the creation of Tuvix, I don't know if we put it to Hanley this way, and the existence of Tuvok and Neelix, like it's kind of like part of his temporal parts theory, I guess, where it's just like then Tuvix just becomes a temporal part of Tuvok and Neelix, like which is a very interesting thing he brought up. So I feel like you have to believe in this finality of Tuvok and Neelix to accept that her responsibility to save their lives is then over.
And I think that's, and I think, certainly that's a fair point, right? And, where Dr. or Professor Hanley was really clear in his sense of temporal parts was that, and this is the point that I really liked about what he said, was that he said, the real trouble isn't that you either split him or not.
Oh, he had a workaround. Yeah.
Why don't you? Because transporters work thus, right? You have proto sort of matter stuff, basically protein stuff, and the gunk, and you just rearrange it into whatever you want, right? And the transporter and the replicator fundamentally work that way the same. So if you have Tuvix's pattern and you have Tuvok and you have Neelix, you can put them onto three pads,
because it shows there's no mass thing there. Like, they somehow Tuvix has all of the DNA of Neelix and all of the DNA of Tuvok, but he's not the size of both of them.
And fundamentally, that's not so crazy, right? Like a tomato has thousands more chromosomes than we do, but it's tiny. So in some respect, that's not so crazy. But
that's what I'm saying there. It's not crazy, so you could conceively get.
Yeah. Oh, I see your point. Yeah. So conceivably, you just put them all apart, right?
Yep.
I mean, to me, the challenge with the time slices argument, and why I think fundamentally, if we accept Hanley's point that you could just make all three, it doesn't matter if there's finality in the first place either, is that I think time slices fundamentally for me fall under what was Aristotle's critique of the Platonists, the followers of Plato, who said there's some ideal chair or table or whatever out there, right? Like the way people taught you the Republic in school, if you learn the Republic, which is wrong. Go read the Laws and the Statesman and the Sophist and all those moments, the Parmenides, where Plato takes that whole conception apart later on in his career. He doesn't stick with it. But Aristotle critiqued some of his students who did want to stick with that by saying, you say that something is separable in reality, the form and the matter, which is only separable in thought. And fundamentally, I think that's true of Hanley's time slices, that they're separable in thought, whereas I don't think they're fundamentally separable in reality. But it makes us agree nonetheless, because I think there's no fundamental finality in the transition from the two to the one, right? I think there is continuity, but there is an ethical responsibility to make three of them in the end. Because now that Tuvix exists, he has the rights of an existing living being, right? And there's the real ethical trouble to me. I
think we all agree there, though. We almost have to remove that third option out of this question. Though it's right. It is correct.
yeah. The Hanley option is a bomb here. It's true.
The Hanley option is 100% correct, but it doesn't make for as good as of an episode. So that's why they didn't do that. Do you know that? You see what we're getting at there? Like they could have just Tom Riker the situation. Like make two.
Yeah, exactly. They could have Tom Riker.
Turn one of them back into Tuvok and Neelix.
Yeah, and it was interesting because it was up till Tom Riker that they'd fixed everything that was gone wrong. They fixed it with Kirk, and so
I think we have to remove that. Is what I'm saying, because we all agree she should have saved all three, and they have the ability and the technology to do that.
Yeah,
but they didn't think of it because it doesn't fit that story. So I think within the context of the story, where she only has either or, I think is what we have to answer here. Because the third option is the correct one, but it doesn't make for as interesting a discussion.
Sure.
The fact that, other than bringing it up, because that's super interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Even then, like, I mean, when you start using then technology to create another life form because you can, like, I don't even know if that's.
So you're asking, does she have the responsibility to end Tuvix?
Because he's an accident.
Because he's an accident.
Well,
like you.
Okay. All right.
You said you had three.
So I guess I am, but I'm also, I'm thinking even back to Enterprise where they created the clone. So Tucker could live. Yeah, Sim, right? So
that's a little bit different though. And I feel like Archer has well, no, actually they came up with a way for him to live longer, didn't they, Sim? Like first he was going to just time out in like a week anyway. But I think they actually did find a way.
But here you've got two lives that are progressing as they should, whether it's, and all of a sudden another one's thrown in because of an accident. And let's face it, it was an accident. I mean, I think she has a responsibility to return things the way they were, too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the good of the many, it is two lives on one against one as well.
Yeah,
because I mean,
it's hard to make those kinds of.
Yeah, my trouble is that ultimately, my problem is that I agree with Adam that some way you've got to restore Tuvok and Neelix, right? Like that.
If you have the ability to do so, exactly.
I think there's no way that, and I don't think anybody on the ship disagrees with that either. Ultimately,
because imagine if you've got a horrible car accident.
Tuvix
went to the hospital, and they're like, "We can save you, but we're not gonna." That's basically what that would be. If you have the ability to save them,
Did anybody ask Neelix or Tuvok what they thought? No, because they were sort of
they're not here.
Yeah. That would be interesting. What their thoughts were on coming back. Tuvok might say,
he might take it for the team. Yeah, Neelix. I think he has just enough selfishness to want to live, and he won't like. Oh man,
that guy got by on holographic lungs for a while.
But I don't think it's selfishness. I just don't think it's like he never had a choice. He was just blended. And this whole, actually, even comparing it to Tom Riker, I was like, what's the harm in that one? It's just doubled. There's nothing.
Well, that's the harm that you brought up. You're like, do they have the responsibility to not make transporter sentient beings? That's kind of like, then you got to go back and end Tom Riker too.
Yeah, I guess so.
Make a call to that prison camp and just have it dealt with.
Right. Will, down to the surface.
There's been a transporter accident again.
Yeah, again. And Tamara was there again.
But that could be a whole Star Trek episode of it. Some mad doctor, creating, combining, DNA.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
that sounds like a lower
deck.
It
was called The Fly. Wait a minute.
Yeah, well, it was.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Tuvix is.
So what you're saying is, we just have to get Jeff Goldblum to agree to do an episode of Strange New Worlds.
He'd do it.
That'd be amazing.
He would.
He'll bring his whole orchestra.
Good alien. Yeah. So, is there anything else to say on this one? But I guess one thing we didn't bring up is the desires of Tuvix very much. He is now a sentient being that wants to live. And assuming he can't save all three, But you know, if you could put words in the mouths of Tuvok and Neelix, maybe that's two voices that want to live. So you
Well,
and Janeway
so
decides she's the one that has to speak for them.
here's what
And
occurs
I
to
do-
me on this.
Yeah.
Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead, Adam.
I just think as a captain, she first of all, she has the responsibility to speak on behalf of her crew. These were crewmen who've been with her for years at this point, and she has there's relationships, there's careers, there's family, there's all this stuff at stake here that are just gone with the creation of with the transporter accident, right? So,
Right.
I think she has a responsibility to bring those back.
This is like
So-
a top 10 Star Trek episode, though. It gets a lot of flack for its controversy and the decision of hers,
Yeah.
but like it's so good.
So what occurs to me here though is a bit of a different thing. So Tuvix is part Tuvok, right? So at some level, deep down, he has the same impulse that animates Spock when he puts his hand on that window, right? In the radiation leaking room. And he says the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. And so how do we square that? Like, are Tuvok and Neelix the many? Is the crew the many that are now going to have
They
to
want
integrate
Tuvok and
Tuvix? Like,
Mhm.
how, what do we? Yeah, because
And,
the
like-
problem that he's a living being now is really, to me, where the ethical rubber kind of hits the road, right?
Yeah. And he gets there. Like he go in that moment where she comes to get him, he freaks out and he goes through like the 5 stages of grief or whatever in like 15 seconds. And he eventually gets to acceptance at the end. And he just goes, I want you all to know you're all very good people. And like, this is like, it's kind of just like driving the knife in too, you know what I mean? But he means it at the same time, but he also like is being a bit petty and like trying to make them hurt more about their decision. But it's his only way out at that point is to somehow appeal to their like morality and conscience. But it's like it's so powerful. And one of the most powerful moments in all of Voyager, if not Star Trek, is because she walks in there all business, right? And she keeps that stern, all business look on her face until the very moment Tuvok and because even the doctor won't help her. He's just like, I will not do this. It was his idea, but he won't go through with it. She's like, well, give me the thing, I'll do it. And then as soon as Tuvok and Neelix are back, she's just like, it's good to see you, Mr. Tuvok and Mr. Neelix. And then she turns around and walks out of the medical bay. And as soon as she's in the hallway and the doors closed behind her, her facial expression changes to just pure sadness and grief. And it's powerful acting. And just walks away like she's gonna go cry somewhere. It's like, but what a captain move! Like,
maybe we've been asking the wrong ethical question here, because the real question here is about the captain that split them. Why? Like, was Janeway right to split them? Why did she do it? Did she do it because she wanted Tuvok back?
was it right or was it right
She
for
couldn't
her?
do-
Is that what you're asking? You're kind of parsing.
Yeah,
that
like
difference.
what do we think of Janeway's motivations?
I think
I almost think she can't. Oh, go ahead.
I think that she believes that she's like I said before, she's got her own crew to worry about, and there's clearly a desire to bring them both back. I mean, nobody. It's not that they don't trust Tuvix because they think he if I remember, he was a pretty good crew
He had him
member.
working tactical and kind
Yeah.
of cooking.
Like I guess it came down to the whole thing is that if there was no option to bring them back, they would have continued the way they were. But it's like a moment in time. If I can go back and fix something or go right when I could have gone left, I'll go do that. And things will change between now and then, or if we go back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Tuvok and Neelix can be a temporal part of the life of Tuvix, or Tuvix can be a temporal part of the life of Tuvok and Neelix. But she has to make that decision. So either way, it's weird. But it's interesting what you say there, because it's like what I feel like she even had to put aside her feelings. I don't think she did this based on just the fact that Tuvok was her closest friend in the whole mix of those 3 people. I don't think that's what she based it. I'm sure she had to wrestle with that, of course, but I think she's a better captain than that. I think it had more to do with her getting her crew home. This is still season 2, where they're still in a super despair and desperation.
2 episode?
Yes. So she's still in, like, they still are in panic mode of trying to get home and not, be blown up in the Delta Quadrant,
Well, now there's the other situation. What's their resource situation like at that point?
They don't, like, they're not depleted because they haven't been going at it a long time, but they don't know if they can get new anything. Like, they're still just in the wilds, they had just finished dealing with the Kazon, basically.
Right.
So
they
just finished up all that Seska nonsense, all the Seska stuff.
Right.
So they, as far as they know, they don't have any friends in the Delta Quadrant, and they have many enemies.
Right.
But and that's more valuable to them. Like, is it more valuable to have one individual that has the skills of 2 people, or is it more valuable to have 2 people that have useful skills that you can use? And I think
that's a great point. And I also think that there's a point as a captain, and these are great. Both of these, actually, even Picard's, like, turning Daren away, it's a great ethical question. It's like, how can you live with somebody you want to live or live with somebody you love, but you might cause their death? But in this case, it's, I always think of, captains are sort of like the parent, the ultimate parent of the crew. And as parents, you'd kind of want your kids back, even if this would happen.
Yeah,
true. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, my mind has not been changed, and it's great discussion here. But I think she was right. I think that's where I'm going to stick with on this one.
I think she was right too, and you're not even understanding the long-term effects of having the blended DNAs and what it could be, But once she was given the option to repair it and go back to where it was, there was no question. She had to do it.
Had to do it.
Yeah, I think given the constraints, I think it probably is the right move. It's a brutal, hard move, but maybe that's why she's the captain to do it. Somehow she can get herself to that place where she knows. Yeah, here's what's got to happen. Yeah.
Like, he even asked her that. He's just like, "Who are you to make this decision?" She's like, "I'm the captain."
I'm the captain.
Like, it's my life, isn't it? My decision. She's just like, "I have other lives to, like, take into account here." She's just like, "It's actually not just about you," as strange as that is, because it's his life that's going to be ended. But it wasn't just about him.
Yeah.
You know what that also really comes back to is, like, the same discussion we had when we were doing Enterprise rewatch, but is like how the enormity of the responsibility on a captain.
Oh, it's crazy.
Like the decisions they have to make. There's nobody to talk to. It's crushing.
Just by the numbers, you're going to lose some, like, officers. You're going to lose some, like, ensigns. You're going to lose some lieutenants. Like,
it's not entirely safe out there in space, right?
Nope.
By a long shot. I mean, how they don't go mad.
And then when you do call home,
Ahab with their white whale, right? Like,
that's right.
Amazing.
But that when you call home and then the Admiralty just goes, "Oh, just do what you think is right anyway." So,
oh, thanks, guys.
Admiral Forrest, he was the best for that.
Well, that was good. I think we hashed that one out really well. All right, let's launch a third probe.
We should destroy the probe.
Okay.
Oh, well, let's launch it anyway.
We should destroy the probe.
No one listens to Worf.
There we go. Take that, Worf. 3. Right. Captain Janeway, of all the Starfleet captains, will be the most celebrated and talked about in the distant future. Now, this is interesting. This is one I came up with for Debate 9, so did not get to debate myself. So I find it quite interesting. But why did you pick this one, Dave?
So I was quite caught by this because at first I was like, no. Clearly Kirk. And then I thought, no, it can't be. Clearly Cisco, right? This sort of emissary, the sort of weird hero of the Dominion War. And then I thought, who's tracked more light years? I mean, in terms of just the wide, like, she's their Magellan in some sense. She's their...
That's it.
She's one of the great explorers of Starfleet. Plus, she's first contact with
Is
the
she not the
entire
greatest
Delta
explorer of
Quadrant.
Starfleet? Yeah,
Maybe by necessity, yeah. But and in that sense, by rising to the challenge, right? Like there's something really incredible about what Voyager ends up doing in that they are lost in space, for so long.
I agree with. If you're saying that you agree with this statement that she is going to be the most celebrated, I would say I agree with you. And the reason I think that is exactly what you were saying. She's the Magellan. Like there are a lot of things we remember throughout history, and sometimes it's explorers or great military commanders like a Kirk or a Picard. Sometimes it's like your war heroes like a Cisco. But what seems to outlast all of those things? Just like the great stories, like being flung halfway across the galaxy and then making your way home is just the best kind of single person's narrative to like be passed on story to story.
With no relief, no reinforcements.
Yeah, it's just the best story.
Making decisions.
Who doesn't love the Odyssey?
It's the Odyssey. It's Magellan, like you said. It's the Lewis and Clark. Anyone who like goes out into the wilderness and makes it back.
Well, I like this argument because I kind of agree with it, but you might have to, as much as I hate to say this, you might have to give that to Archer as well.
He's the first. There's something to be said about being the first to do something. The first.
I mean, I keep going back to the optimism that he had when he left, Earth, and then a year later he's just angry.
I don't know if I have the answers for this analogy, but maybe you guys do. So if we were to take something else, like say climbing Mount Everest, who would be the most recognizable figure? Would it be the first person who climbed Mount Everest? Would it be the person who climbed it the fastest, say like a war hero, like that's like something an analogy to that, or would it be the person who had the most harrowing tale? Or
well, I only know the one with the most harrowing tale and the first one.
So it's between like Archer and Janeway.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, see, when you ask me that question, my mind goes to Tenzing Norgay, who did it like every freaking Tuesday.
Yeah.
But I don't know which captain that is, so I'm not sure my answer is helpful.
That would be Harriman. It's not there till Tuesday.
Not till Tuesday, yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Well,
so maybe I just
Everest analogy didn't solve anything.
The captain of the Cerritos is going to be the most celebrated.
Freeman, yeah, for those second contacts.
But you know what, though? I mean, you also can't just think about what she did during that mission. But she also went on to be Admiralty, and there's a lot more to Janeway here.
That's true. Involved in the Prodigy Project.
I think of Janeway, and I think of no nonsense. I think of kept her crew together. She actually blended a crew. There's a lot of things that she did that were pretty damn amazing. And again, you said it, to be lost in space and
does that also add to the like voices that would carry on her tale too, though, that she might also become this like folk hero among like Maquis types as well, not just Starfleet. Like she's this person who took this kind of rogue freedom fighter crew and made them part of her crew, like,
and listen to them a lot.
Story could carry farther.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Would that be a story of that? Would that be a story of them, getting pulled back to the Starfleet way? I think that would be a really interesting, complicated piece of the story, but I think it would be an exciting.
Well, we said celebrate it and or talked about, so it's like they could be talking negatively about it, but they would still be telling the tale.
And you also wonder too, is like after years away and making your way home, and they're innovating. They're just doing things along the way that are not necessarily Starfleet regulation, and then having
Borg everything, all that Borg technology. That's not regulation.
No, and it's not. And then you have to be, basically assimilate back into society when you come home. Like, I mean, the fact that she was able to do that. Like,
Yeah, I think that would be a very strange experience.
It would be almost like, I don't follow the rules anymore, guys. I'm just going to do it my way.
Right? Like, I'm the captain. I'm making it up here, guys. Yeah. I can see that. And we see that in a few captains, right? who get out beyond the lines. Maxwell ends up in that position. Who's it? Nova Squadron are out on their own, Defiant end up in that position.
Waters.
There's a few people that end up that way, and it's a bad end, but she seems to navigate very with grit and determination and skill through those kind of pitfalls, right? Like there's a lot of places she could have lost her mind out there.
Well, they show you that dichotomy. Like they show you the Pegasus,
Sure.
But
No,
I love
Pegasus.
episodes
Was
like
it
that
Pegasus? No, not Pegasus. You know what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah.
well, it's Captain Maxwell.
Equinox.
No, not Captain. Yeah, the Equinox. Yes, sorry, the Equinox. The other ship that got lost in the Delta Quadrant, and they became ruthless murderers. So it's like
Right?
it shows you that what Janeway could have become and that crew could have become, especially since they had a bunch of basically criminals on the ship. Like it should have been more likely that Janeway and Voyager became more cutthroat. They had.
But you remember,
pirates.
like they also. Sorry, did you remember? But they did a very good job at writing her as an admiral, and like when Picard was speaking of her other captains, they spoke of her with such respect.
And trust, like in Picard, he's just like, well, like they're like, who can we trust? He's like, well, we can't get hold of Janeway, like the one person we knew we could trust, because it's like not even the Borg Queen can like assimilate her. It was like Janeway's Janeway. If we call Janeway, we're pretty confident it's Janeway. Like,
yeah, true enough.
Yeah, might not be Janeway, it might be future Janeway, but it'll still be Janeway.
Like there's a through line there, right?
Yeah,
I think it's an excellent point that she, in that sense, she's a Starfleet officer for all seasons, right? Of a career, she's scientifically good, she's strategically and tactically good, and command-wise, management-wise, she's excellent and rises to the occasion in a way that is probably in some ways unparalleled. I don't think we hear a lot about other ships who get lost for that long and make it back in Starfleet history. Those are the ships they find out there that some anomalies happen to,
And they're usually zombies or something by the time.
Right? Or all of a sudden you find yourself going, Beverly, and it's just screwed or not.
Yeah. No, I think.
Or the captain in Star Trek Beyond. Who got stuck.
Oh, yeah. And where I think she outstrips Archer as far as that kind of being talked about in the future is Archer's accomplishments are just so Federation and even Starfleet specific. Yes, in the Federation, and he'll be a huge name in the Federation and Starfleet. But outside of that, I think he doesn't have that grand story of the ship. Like Voyager could have been any ship. It didn't matter that it was Starfleet. If any ship was flung to the Delta Quadrant and made it back, that ship would be talked about.
Oh, that's sort of worthy of story on its own. I see your point. Yeah.
Well, there's your Magellan, contact. That you were saying, Dave. I mean, she was everything. She was everything that a captain could be and more. Like, so.
She should be an S tier captain. We got to go back to the captain's list.
And again, when you think of
your fault, Puxley.
Like I think about, I think is the captain's discretion they have, and just. I mean, the term "the lonely" at the top is not even enough to state what these guys have to deal with.
Yeah.
Well, no kidding.
I think we all agree on this one.
Yeah, I think we do agree on this. Yeah.
Good job, Janeway. You're not one of the three captain, but you're memorable.
Indeed. And she has a statue already, so that's nice.
Yeah, she has a statue.
That's pretty good.
Well, any closing thoughts on those three arguments there, fellas? Before we let Adam get to his handball match.
Oh, that's right. You have to go watch the pig kicking.
I actually am going to spend the evening with some good friends and chat, and yes, the game will be on in the background.
But I think often enough, as many people as I've talked to, right, this is a great, like it's as much like a holiday and a social celebration as it is watching the actual game, right? So
yeah,
enjoy.
There's two games
like First Contact Day.
First Contact Day, yes. It's coming up. We're coming close to that.
Yeah, we are. It's like April or May, isn't it? No, it's February.
April 5th, 2063.
April 5th, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
all right.
Well, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Get us at locutorsoftrek@gmail.com or, live long and podcast at gmail.com. Find our audio only version wherever you get your podcasts. And you can find a little Patreon over there, Live Long and Podcast. But other things. We're working on merch stores and stuff like that. And for our entire United Federation of podcasts, which have shows like, well, our Star Trek channel here that you see, Live Long and Podcast. Look at that handsome crew. Very good. Oh, we got to update that now. Heather's got her into the picture. And of course, we have our show First Contact, where we recently did a First Contact with none other than John Garman Hertzler. A great man, a great chancellor. It was fun talking to him.
The People's Chancellor.
The People's Chancellor. And we recently talked leadership, including about Janeway, with Jeff Aiken from the Starfleet Leadership Academy. And he said Janeway was his captain. He knows
that was a very good episode, guys.
Oh, thanks.
I really enjoyed that conversation. Yeah.
Well, really, Locutor season 2 is really kicking off with a bang. I think it's been pretty great. You check our astrophysics chat there, Adam.
Yes, I did. Actually,
yeah, it was fun as well. So lots going on. We recently did a debate 9. Me and Kevin and Sophia from the Where's Beverly podcast had ourselves a little round of debates. Adam's going to join us for the next trivia. Dave can't make it. It's his anniversary.
That's true.
Yeah, you got to do that, Dave.
Yeah. You got to do that.
Yeah.
So that's our Star Trek channel. We got lots going on. And, of course, in the Command Division, they're reviewing all the shows. You guys are finishing up over there on the Deep Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine. I think I got to watch that tonight, too. Got to do that one. So.
Next up is the TNG review series, Dave. So if there's anything you want to get in on, I can pass that along. I've already put my name in for home soil. That's for sure.
I'll be absent for Code of Honor.
I'm also absent for Code of Honor. Jameel's going on.
That might just be a swing and a miss for everyone.
Jameel by himself.
We can manage it.
Jameel took all the ones for the team. He's just like, give me all the bad ones. He's like, I'll do your Code of Honors. I'll do your Angel ones.
Angel 1.
Angel 1 is maybe worse than Code of Honor. I mean, certainly not as horribly racist, but it's just unwatchable.
No, but it's really interested in gangs.
Yeah.
Gangs at that.
Oh yeah, that's
oh
true.
My god.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And we also have X-Rated, the X-Men anime review show. Check it out. We're doing a radio theater of an X-Men script of a movie that was never made, written by X-Men writer of X-Men TAS and many other things, Robert Skier. So check that out. That's going to be fun. And we also have the voice of Beast, George Booza, coming on in a few weeks here. And also Graphic History Scud podcast has an interview coming up with Mike Carlin, releasing on Monday. Editor of The Death of Superman over at DC and many other things. There's some interesting stories there. Oh, yeah. And also Hold Up a Movie podcast. We just talked about music movies. The Harder They Come, Sound of Metal, and Sing Street. Supermator Brothers, they are reviewing reality shows. There's always reality shows for them to review. And we do the Mary Mater Marvel Society over there. Recently reviewed Echo. And then there's Eamon on Track, where he reviews albums. Trivial debates where people argue about trivial things in a non-trivial fashion. And I think that's it. Oh, and the Hellbound podcast. Alex Blackburn and Michael Chan. And I guess that only leaves one thing to say.
Indeed. In transmission.